Hello everyone, welcome to another World of Warcraft video. If you're watching this video, you're probably new to World of Warcraft and you're wondering which version of the game you should start playing. Or maybe you are already playing World of Warcraft, but you can't decide if it is worth it to try WoW Classic. I know that this may be confusing, especially for new players. And this is an important decision, because if you want to fully explore and enjoy games like World of Warcraft, you have to invest a lot of time and even money for subscriptions. In this video I'll try to help by sharing with you my experience and explaining the main differences between the two versions. There is a huge difference between them, which is a result of almost 16 years of development, new expansions, new territories, classes, races, thousands of changes, some good, some bad, which I guess is subjective. I will not go into too much details and I'll try to focus on the most general and important differences. I'll start with a brief introduction of WoW, or retail WoW as some people call it, and WoW Classic. The idea behind Classic version is to represent the game in its initial state before the release of the first expansion called the Burning Crusade. Parts of the content, mainly raids, was released in phases. There is still one phase left, 6th in the list, but there will be no further changes in the gameplay mechanics or any expansions, which is the whole idea behind WoW Classic, or at least it was. There are rumors for a possible release of Classic versions of some of the expansions, but it is not officially confirmed. So there is no guarantee that after the 6th phase there will be any new content in WoW Classic. The modern World of Warcraft receives a new expansion almost every 2 years, which brings many new things like zones, new quests and storyline, new dungeons and raids, sometimes even new classes, races and changes to the game mechanics. The current expansion is Battle for Azeroth, and the next one is expected to be released at the end of this year. It is called Shadowlands and will bring class changes, new leveling system, new zones, and many other things that we are still expecting to see. In WoW Classic you have a choice of 9 classes, while Modern WoW has 3 more options: Monk, Death Knight and Demon Hunter, which are very nice additions to the game. You can check my World of Warcraft guide for beginners if you want to learn more about classes in Modern WoW and their specializations. You will see a link in the upper right corner of the screen, and I'll also put it in the description below. Many things have changed during all these years regarding classes, including visual appearance, abilities, specializations and the talent system. Most important for the game experience are the changes in specializations and the talent system. In WoW Classic you have one talent tree for each specialization and you can combine talents from each of them. In this example I'm showing the talent trees of a priest. Each of them is divided in several tiers. You choose talents by spending talent points, which you receive every level from 10 to 60. The talent system in WoW Classic lets you customize your character in one specific way and game style. And it is not easy nor convenient to change that on the go. In order to do that, you have to go to a class trainer and pay for a total reset of the talent points. Then you have to redistribute all your points again. Each time you do it, the reset is more expensive. So most of the time your character will be either a good tank, a good healer or a good damage dealer. Which means that if you have customized your priest to be a DPS, you will not be very effective if you join a group as a healer, especially at higher levels. This is what I don't like in this old talent system. The talent system in the retail WoW is far more flexible. Here you also have one talent tree for each specialization, but they all work independently and it is very easy to switch between specializations. So if I want to play as a healer with my priest, I just switch to Holy or Discipline spec. If I want to be a damage dealer, I switch to Shadow. And I can do this with only one button and free of charge. Changing the talents is also very easy. From my perspective, this is a big plus for the modern WoW. But there is one more. Classes in modern World of Warcraft are much more balanced, which is a result of many changes during all these years and expansions. It means that all characters that can heal, for example, usually can perform this role almost equally, and all depends mostly on the player's skills. Of course, all classes have some advantages and disadvantages in specific area, but nothing compared to the situation in WoW Classic. In Classic, because of certain limitations in the Classic mechanics, some classes are preferred for specific roles. For example, mages and rogues are the preferred damage dealers. The former because of the strong area of effect damage and the latter for the strong single target damage. Warrior is expected to tank and the priest to heal, no matter that both classes also have a DPS spec. So this is what is usually expected from you to play, if you want to have a bigger chance to be invited in group events, especially for endgame content. I'm not saying that it is impossible to find a group and play as a paladin tank or priest DPS, but it will be much harder. And because I prefer to play with classes that I enjoy and not those that others are expecting me to play, I prefer a more balanced class system. In World of Warcraft, there are 13 races available, and when you have a 110 level character, you can start unlocking additional races called allied races, which are specific to the faction of your character. Currently there are 10 allied races, 5 of each faction, which makes a total of 23 races you can play with. In WoW Classic you have access to a total of 8 races, and there are more limitations regarding the classes you can play with each race. For example, in WoW you can play as a Night Elf Mage or as a Human Hunter, which is not possible in WoW Classic. The gaming experience in WoW Classic during leveling is completely different than that in Modern WoW. In many cases you feel that everything you do is important and there are so many things you wish you had time to do, and nothing is easy. Sometimes it is really challenging, and that's what many players actually like in this version. Let's take the in-game gold for example. You need it for spells, repairs, flying to other zones, leveling professions, or sometimes you just need to buy an item from the auction house because you really need it. For that reason almost everything seems valuable, especially in early game. Even the lowest quality items are important because you can sell them. Spells are not cheap, so you have to choose carefully which upgrades to buy and when. Sometimes it is hard to decide whether you should use an item or it is better to sell it. Most of the time the fight difficulty is challenging, especially if you are not careful and you play alone. Even one single mob can cause you trouble if it is not handled properly and with attention. The leveling process is very slow. You can check my video in which I compare the leveling speed and time needed to finish the starting zones in both versions. In Classic you need to eat food and drink mana very often. For new players it is highly recommended to fight only with mobs with the same or lower level than their character. For stronger enemies you may have to find a group or at least someone to help you. And because of that you will need to travel more and explore more zones that are close to your character level. You have to communicate with other players much more often in order to get a group for different kind of events. It may sound too hard and challenging, but this is one of the reasons why many players find the leveling process much more entertaining in Classic than that in Modern WoW. And it really is, in my opinion, with one big exception that I will explain later in this video. Leveling in retail can sometimes be very boring. Everything is too easy and faster, like fights, gaining gold, gaining levels, especially till you reach the level bracket of the latest expansion. You can level your character without developing even a single profession. There are many few things that you need gold for, and you usually earn it without even focusing on that. Having the best possible gear is not important. The fight mechanics is too easy. Most of the time you can fight with 5 or 6 mobs with one hand while eating your breakfast with the other. What will drop in a dungeon during leveling is not important unless the item looks good. Your gaming experience while leveling in WoW also depends on how you choose to do it. Many players are leveling their characters by doing same dungeons over and over using the group finder system, which is probably the most boring way to play WoW, and it is even not the fastest way to level. Especially for new players there is so much more to explore in retail WoW. There are many nice zones you can visit with so many interesting storylines and quests. I have a separate video about the most beautiful places where you can level your character. Most of these zones are not available in Classic, because they have been changed or added with the expansions. Let me show you a part of it. There is no group finder system in WoW Classic for dungeons and raids. You have to find other group members yourself, mainly via the local chat. This is not that bad actually, from a social perspective, but there is one big problem. These days it is very hard to find people for low or medium level dungeons. Sometimes it takes more than an hour or two, and it requires a constant advertising in specific chat channels. While doing this, you have to be in one of the major cities, so it is not possible to search for a group while questing. That problem is probably caused by the fact that there are just not enough new players or active low level characters, or it is because many players prefer to buy boosts instead of doing dungeons the normal way. So finding a group for dungeons can be a very unpleasant experience in WoW Classic, even if you play in high population servers. In situations where I have been searching for a group for almost an hour without any success, I definitely miss the group finder system from the retail. These problems also affect questing. When you are doing a hard quest in WoW Classic, you usually need help. But in many lower and middle level zones, the local chat is usually quiet and very often you can't find anyone else around. Very often it feels like you are playing in a single player mode. This changes a little when you reach the last 10 or 5 levels of your character and start playing some endgame content. Professions are a system of skills that your character may learn in order to gather and craft items. Professions can be very useful in WoW Classic during leveling, especially those that let you gather different resources like herbs or ore that you can sell. Even leveling your fishing skill makes sense, something that many players completely ignore in modern WoW. Professions may help you in all levels of your WoW Classic journey. In World of Warcraft, you can completely skip leveling professions until you reach the latest content, because after that, leveling starts from zero with almost no connection to what you have achieved before that. In retail, professions become important when you reach the content of the current expansion. In Classic there are 12 professions and in Modern WoW there are 2 more. In retail there is a very interesting reason to focus on making gold, WoW tokens. You can buy them with in-game gold and exchange them for Battle.net balance, pets, mounts, other Blizzard games and most importantly game time. With this feature, spending time making more and more gold actually makes sense. If you develop the right professions, if you know how to make profit from auction house trade, you can make a lot of gold and save some real money for subscription fees. WoW tokens are not available in WoW Classic. Pet battles are something that you may enjoy a lot in retail. They are turn-based minigames. You can capture and level pets from different zones across Azeroth and fight against other players. It is an interesting and fun to play mode, which is also not available in Classic. In Modern WoW you can change the appearance of most of your gear with the visuals of other items. This can be done through the in-game system called transmogrification. Many players enjoy collecting items from different zones, dungeons and raids and add them to their collection. With that, they can change their style at any time. With a high enough level character, you can solve older dungeons and raids and get many good looking visuals for your gear. This feature is not available in Classic. Regarding PvP, I'll first begin with the World PvP, because there is a huge difference here. In Classic you have PvE and PvP servers. If you are in a PvP server, in most zones a player from the opposing faction can attack you. That may become a problem if the attacking players have higher level characters. But that also makes leveling and questing even more challenging and interesting. In retail there are PvE servers only and so-called war mode, which you can turn on and off. If it is on, players from the opposing faction can attack you and you can attack those of them who also have war mode on. There are some benefits from taking this risk, such as an increased experience, gold and other currency gain from doing quests and mob kills. If you turn war mode off, you will no longer be targetable by the other faction. There is also one more important difference regarding servers. In retail you can create characters from both factions in the same server. In Classic that is only possible in normal servers, but not in PvP. If you already have an alliance character, you cannot create one from the Horde side. The PvP in Classic is limited mostly to open world interactions with the opposing faction and several battlegrounds. In retail there is a wider choice of PvP events, more battlegrounds, Arena Mode, PvP Island Expeditions and World PvP events. Also, almost every new expansion brings additional content like new battlegrounds, new arena maps, rating systems and gear changes. Endgame is where retail starts to shine. You have so much more things to do here. More raids and dungeons with different difficulties, more battlegrounds, arenas, world quests and island expeditions. The content and the game mechanics becomes more difficult and challenging compared to Endgame in WoW Classic. There are different events for both casual and hardcore players. The most important thing regarding the endgame in the modern version of World of Warcraft is that even if you get bored at some point, and you probably will, you know that the next expansion will bring new content, hopefully even a better one. You can even stop playing the game for a while, but sooner or later you'll have a good reason to return. In Classic, nothing will ever change, which is actually the core of the concept. Once you reach the maximum level and go through all available content, if you get bored, there is nothing you can do about it, especially if you don't have friends to play with. But even then, doing same things over and over is not fun at all. Things may change if Blizzard decides to release classic versions of previous expansions, but as I said before, that is not confirmed yet and it is not the same thing. Taking this into account, the modern WoW is definitely more future-proof. There are many so-called quality of life changes in modern WoW, but I can't list all of them here. Whether they are making the game experience better is another subjective matter, but some of them are really useful and make some things far more convenient. But they should not be considered as a main reason to choose one version over another. They will be just a bonus if you eventually decide to play retail WoW. The graphics quality of the modern World of Warcraft is much more advanced and better looking than that in Classic, especially if you play in high resolutions such as 4K. But that also means that the game is much more demanding and you need a better hardware. The Classic WoW runs perfectly on my 13-inch MacBook Pro from 2018 with stable 60 frames per second, medium settings and its native resolution. This is nice if you don't have a powerful computer with a discrete graphics card. Retail WoW is almost unplayable on my MacBook, even if I turn all settings to low. Either it becomes too noisy or the FPS is not high enough to enjoy the game. Retail requires a powerful machine if you want to play in 4K resolution or higher and having stable 60 FPS in raids at the same time. If I had to recommend one of the two games to a friend, I would tell him to play the modern World of Warcraft. Not because WoW Classic is bad and Retail is perfect. Retail is far from perfect. If it was perfect, the Classic version probably wouldn't even exist. The problem with Classic is its unknown future. I see a decline in population. The game experience is getting worse. It is now very far from what it was during the first few months after the release. Many players say that they had a lot of fun during leveling, but soon after they reached endgame, the game became boring. At the same time, we are expecting a new expansion in Retail WoW, which looks promising. Many experienced players think that this new expansion will be much better than the last few ones. Even the leveling system will be changed, and I expect that this element of the game will also become more interesting. There will be a new starting experience, and when you reach level 10, you will be able to choose where to continue your leveling journey. We are expecting many new features, and one of them is Torghast, a new ever-changing dungeon mode that will provide different experience each run. Now this is something new, finally. So there is a good reason to start playing Retail WoW now and level at least one character so you can be ready for the new challenges that Shadowlands will bring very soon. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please give it a like. If you have any feedback or you want to share your experience with WoW and WoW Classic, feel free to leave a comment below. I will be glad if you share with us which version you have started playing. Thank you guys for watching this video. Consider subscribing to my channel so you don't miss my next World of Warcraft videos. And don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you in the next one.